All right, good evening, class. You're going to get a real insight tonight into what it is like to be an adjunct professor. As you can tell, I am not wearing the normal polo that I typically have on. You're getting me with my baseball cap on backwards, my Butler Way t-shirt on. It has been one of those weeks and weekends, just to give you a little insight. Work was crazy for me. I also interviewed for a position at my alma mater. On top of that, my wife was in the emergency room twice this weekend. We had two kids' birthday parties. And a number of other things going on. So I am doing this on the fly. Still very well prepared, just maybe not as professional looking as possible, like you guys normally see me. So you can see me in my natural habitat, if you will. This is what my weekends normally look like. So um, just want to do a few housekeeping notes. Number one, I think most of you guys are finishing up your test right now. Scores have been okay coming in. Looks like in the C plus average. So I'll have a better idea once all those are wrapped up and in. Your first discussions were graded. Good job, you guys. One thing I want to remind you, you have to comment on two of your classmates' discussions. Okay, a lot of you guys lost about 10 points because you did a great job on your discussion. You got to comment on two other ones. Okay, that's part of the assignment. Again, go back, reread the syllabus that's in there. You need to make sure you guys are doing that. Other good things coming up. We've got, again, the second discussion should be done. I'll be grading that this week. A few more other things coming up here shortly. First test is in the book. So like I said, we'll review all of that. I'll have some more insight for you guys. As always, please don't be afraid to email me if you have questions, if there's anything on the test that caught you off guard, and if there are any questions on the discussions or any of the projects or papers that are due coming up here shortly. So, all right, let's get into chapter 7, 8, and 9. These obviously, chapter 7 definitely is in my wheelhouse. This is what I get to do every day, selling to the different markets that we work in. The book talked about 5 different steps when it goes to making a sale, if you will. The first was pre-planning the call. Totally agree with this. The more information you know about the clients you're calling on definitely makes this easier for you, will make it more successful. So again, what do you know about the people you're calling? Whether it's knowing about the company, whether it's knowing about the individual, what they're involved in, where they've stayed in the past, are they familiar with Indianapolis? Do they have a presence here? Again, anything that you can do that makes you seem more knowledgeable about them. You've done your work, you've invested in them. That goes a long way. So again, pre-planning the call is huge. Opening the call. You know, it's hard to do, and again, most of our calls are going to start with phone conversations in most cases. Now, sometimes we'll get a face-to-face, but typically it's going to start on the phone. That's your opportunity to build trust, to build some rapport. Biggest thing again is always asking questions. Again, the whole theory is you want to talk 20% and listen 80%, okay? We can't help provide them a solution if we don't know what the problem is. So again, very, very important that we ask those open-ended questions, get them talking, make sure that we have, great listening skills, and make sure that we're noting different things so we can make sure that we go back and address the concerns they have. Um, Presentation, okay, again, and this can be in multiple forms, whether you're presenting your proposal on the phone, whether you're presenting them in person, what have you. The biggest mistake that most young sales reps make, and I was no different when I first started, and I think I've used this term already once before, is basically what we call showing up and throwing up. Most of the times when we get into new positions, we finally know all the facts, we know all the information that we want to share, and we are so eager to show the client what our knowledge is that a lot of times we'll just show up and start spitting out facts and figures and this kind of stuff. Well, what ends up happening is you waste your client's time because, unless they asked for those specific things, they may not want to know them. You start, spitting out about the green policies of your hotel and the fact that you're a 4 diamond and you're on the registry of historic places and you're this, and this. And the only question they asked was, do the rooms have refrigerators? Answer the questions, and again, most young sales reps want to show their knowledge. You've worked hard to get to know all this stuff and you want to show it to the client. So that's one of the biggest things, again, that you're going to want to make sure you step back on and say, okay, let me answer their questions and let me make sure I'm asking questions so that they're talking, okay? The book talks about objections, and I think it said handling objections. I would say listening to the objections. They have these objections for a reason. A lot of times, different companies have gone through these programs, gone through these meetings, and they've run into different problems. And so they are bringing those to you, and this is a golden opportunity for us to show and to us to alleviate their concerns, if you will. Hey, we know you had this problem at your last property. Here's how we're going to handle it and make sure it doesn't happen again. So again, listen closely to those objectives. Make sure that you can, again, answer them obviously, and show how your hotel, your property can alleviate those concerns and make sure those aren't going to happen here. Lastly, we talk about closing. Okay, and again, the book is going into great detail. And guys, with these lectures, I'm just trying to give you a quick synopsis of what you're reading on. But when we close, you got to ask for the business, and it does not have to be a super hard push. I think a lot of times people get confused by that. It could be simply saying, and I've done this many times, you've gone through a site tour with me, okay? And then let me back up because, actually, no, I'm going to touch on site tours here in a minute. You've gone through a site tour, you've seen the property, we've talked about things that you're concerned about, we talked about what our hotel is good at. At the end of that site tour, I asked the question, is there anything you see here or that you saw at the hotel that would prevent you from bringing this meeting here? Now, that doesn't mean we're going to get it. That doesn't mean that another hotel might offer them a better rate. Doesn't mean that another hotel might be more what they're looking for, whether it is newer, historic, better location. But what it does for me is it lets me know, are there any red flags? Did you look at my hotel and go, oh man, your ballroom space is just too small, your chairs aren't comfortable enough, didn't like the look. It's their opportunity for us for one last time to look at any objections they may have or any concerns, and again, try to offer solutions. So yeah, you're going to ask for the business. You're going to say, hey, have we done everything we could, to fit what you're asking for this meeting? And if the answer is yes, that's great. Then my next question is, what is our next step? Is it a matter of me sending you more information? Is it a matter of getting anybody else into the hotel so they can see the property, that there's other things that are going, that need to be looked at by different people in the operation? Is it a matter of setting a contract? This is that opportunity for them to say, hey, we're ready to go, or no, there's still some more pieces that have to line up before this can happen. So again, that's kind of selling in a nutshell, whether it's phone, in person, what have you. Now, they do talk specifically about phone sales, and a few things I want to touch on. Number one, I've already said it, listening and questions. Guys, you cannot get enough questions in, and you've got to listen for their answers. And again, listen to their tone, listen to the words they're using, listen to what they're saying, because that's going to go a long way to whether or not you can offer a solution to what is their problem. Okay? Now, when you're on the phone, calm, clear, slow, and steady. This is something that yours truly has struggled with at times. I'm an excited kind of person. When I get revved up, I tend to speed up. I tend to talk very quickly. You guys can tell in these videos I talk with my hands a great deal. Definitely an emotional speaker. And there are times that as I'm on the phone, I actually have it written on my desk, slow down. Then I'll take myself back a notch and I'll say, okay, ask the question. Talk in a slower tone. Make sure they understand me as much as I understand them. Sales can be very exciting, especially when you start to get on a roll. It could be towards the end of the month. You understand that if we can close this sale, I make my month, I make my quarter. Got to keep those emotions in check. Okay. So again, slow and steady. In our hotel world, when it's ever possible, especially when working on the phone, I'm always trying to get them set up for a site tour of the hotel, especially if they haven't been here before. Sometimes it can't happen. If they're based out of Dallas or Houston or California, they're not going to fly in specifically for a site tour unless they know for sure they're going to be coming to Indy for a meeting. If it's just me introducing them to the hotel for the first time, that's probably going to happen. But if they're local, my number one challenge is to get them on site, if you will. The hotel industry, the hospitality industry is very unique. We cannot pick up our product and take it to their office. We can take them pictures. We can take them presentations. I can take them food from chef. I can do all that kind of stuff. But nothing replaces them walking through the front doors, getting a feel for the hotel, seeing it, smelling it, hearing it. Nothing replaces that. And again, as articulate as I feel that I am, especially with my property being a historic location, and it's very much unlike any other hotel out there, it's very hard for me to convey what we have to offer and how unique we are without getting them to set their feet on our campus, on our actually hotel property. So again, always pushing for that. The book also talked about trade show selling. This probably is not as popular as it was 10 or 15 years ago. It still does go on. There are still great opportunities to make sales at trade shows. And they talked about the traditional kind of trade show where you guys are in a booth you're in an area, you're reaching out to potential clients as they're walking through a convention center, they're walking through, a conference trade show, if you will. That is one way to do it. And the book gave you guys great insight on how that's done. There's another way that a lot of trade shows have now gone to. It's called a reverse trade show. So instead of us as hoteliers having a booth or having a table, the planners do. And what basically happens is all the planners are sitting down at 500-600 different tables. You preset meetings, and now it's us, the hoteliers, that are running to and from each table, meeting with the planners. Now, I find this much better in the sense of, number one, what basically happens is the planners put out there who they want to meet with. I'm going to this city, I'm going to this area, I want to meet with the Crowne Plaza in the Midwest, I want to meet the Crowne Plaza in Indianapolis, what have you. So there's a bunch of planners who might ask for me. I'm going to have a hit list of clients I want to go to. So first off, anybody who matches up or I want to see them and they want to see me, boom, we make it, it's an automatic appointment. Then it's going to go, whichever ones that they want to go to are thrown on there. And then lastly, the ones I want will fill in the gaps. So what basically ends up happening is you get about 6 minutes, and it's not a long amount of time, but you get 6 minutes one-on-one with that planner. And a lot of times it's very much a better opportunity where you're not fighting any of the other noise, nobody else is trying to grab their attention, it's you and them one-on-one. It's got to be quick, very much like an elevator speech, where I've got all of 3 minutes to tell them about my property and another 3 minutes to ask my question to get them talking about what their needs are. So again, very, very unique. Again, take a good hard look at this chapter. This is the nuts and bolts of how we sell. So real quick, guys, before we go to chapter 8. I get a little drink there. All right, chapter 8, advertising. Now, as I looked at this chapter, number one, I think you guys need to know all of this stuff. So let me preface it that way. As a sales manager, I don't get to tie in a whole lot to advertising typically. Now, my role is a little different for the hotel because I'm a sales and marketing manager. So I actually handle a good portion of our social media. And when I say I handle it, it means I dabble in it. My number one focus, 95% of my time, is spent selling. I have a marketing background, so they let me dabble in this kind of stuff. So again, it's good for you guys to understand this because as you begin to climb up the ladder, if you become a director of sales, if you become a general manager, assistant general manager, you will deal with this. So let's look at this real quickly. The advertising chapter starts out really, and I love this, it's AIDA. Okay, so whenever you're advertising, these are the kind of things you need to have in your advertisement. It's got to be attention-getting. It's got to be interesting. It has to get the recipient to have a desire, and then there has to be a call to action. So AIDA, those are things that all of your messages when it comes to advertising should have in it. Now, the book talks a lot about print ads. You guys know as well as I do, technology has exploded over the last 10 to 20 years. So not that print ad is not still important, it is, and it still goes on in publications. You'll have like your IBJs, your association magazines, your Indianapolis Stars, and those kind of things. But again, I think a lot of it is shifting to other areas, whether it's web-based, whether it's, again, on Google searches, can you get yourself to pop up further? Does your banner ad pop up when I go and search something because my criteria fit the criteria what we think our guests are? Again, the analytics go on with Google and those guys is absolutely unbelievable. If you ever get a chance, read up on that stuff. It's absolutely incredible how they will match your ads to who you are just by the things you have done online. So, again, print ads, take a good look at that. Understand that, again, the shift is probably going to more web-based and social platform, mobile platform devices. There's a lot of changes in the advertising industry. And again, when you look at the book, understand it's a bit behind. We probably need to replace this book with a new one that talks a little bit more on the social marketing side of things. It talks about, I think, 89% of planners have email addresses. Well, you guys know 100% of planners have email addresses, okay? Email is how we do things. And again, we look at advertising. You can do email blast. We use a number of different formats where we can send messages that way. Definitely a form of advertisement. Does not change the whole AIDA. Got to be the same thing. But again, it's more immediate. It gets into their hands, and I can specify it to make sure that instead of using a shotgun approach that you would use on an ad in the Star, I'm using more of a scope approach. I'm saying I want these planners to see this information. So again, going that way. Collateral items I talked about. Again, very, very important. This is the kind of material you're going to put in people's hands. We don't typically mail that out as much as we once did, obviously. Everything can be sent electronically, so a lot of times it's just being emailed, PDF files, and those kind of things. Once they're on site, a lot of times we will hand them that. That still has not gone away to give them something hard to hang on to. That's typically going to be your menus, the information on the hotel as far as meeting space goes, overnight rooms, what are the amenities that we have, how big are our rooms, what have you, and then of course all of our contact information. So that is still the same. Specialty items they talked about, still done. Always some really unique gifts that you can give clients. We had our grand debut after we came out of renovation about a year and a half ago. We had all kinds of fun things. We had special pens that had stylus on one end and lights on the other. They wrote incredibly well. They were slick. They were silver. Fit really nice in your pocket. We had speakers that have our logo and our names on them. Those tend to go to a larger client. Coasters that fit into like where your drink would go in your car. These are that size, so they fit in there. They're ceramic. They soak up the water. It's really nice. So those kind of fun things are done all the time still. Not a huge investment in those, but again, anything that you can put out that's a classical, or say classical, but a very classy looking piece with your logo on it goes a long way. That sits on a desk, that sits in someone's office. It is a reminder. But again, it's got to be something they can use. It can't just be some, plastic, 20-cent pen that they're going to chuck away. You want it to be nice, something that they can keep and look at and again remind you of you. So, the other thing we're going to get into, and the book does touch on direct mailing. That has gone away, I think, for a lot of the hospitality industry. It still may go on here and there, reminder cards and those kind of things. But again, most of that has kind of switched over to the electronical side where we can do everything by email blast or, again, banner ads and those kind of things. Strategy doesn't change, though. Whether it's electronical, whether it's social medium, whether it's mobile, whether it is print, your advertising strategy has to be thought out. Okay, and the book does a great job of kind of laying this out. You talk about what's your plan. Again, who are we going after? What is the whole idea of this marketing campaign? Is it to talk about our food and beverages? Is it to talk about our exemplary chef? Is it to talk about our room renovation that we did? Is it to point out our fantastic location because, Lucas Oil Stadium just got built and we're the closest full-service hotel to the stadium? You have to have that all laid out. Budget, obviously. In our world today, that is probably one of the number one things. Things don't get done or do get done as long as there's money involved. So, again, what's the return on the investment? Obviously, we're not going to spend money to not make money back. Target market, this is huge. Again, are we doing the shotgun approach where we just want to hit every single planner? Or is it specific to our corporate planners? Is it specific to our Smurf market? Is it all the associations this side of the Mississippi, who book in the fall? We got to have an understanding, again, of who we're going after. And again, it goes back to our plan and why. So lastly, again, we're going to talk about what medium we're going to use. And that becomes much, much more complicated now because of all the different things that are out there. Again, from a social media platform, you can do YouTube campaigns, Twitter campaigns, Facebook, LinkedIn. Again, you guys know better than I do all the different channels there are for you to promote your message. And again, who you're going to reach out to. So, again, that strategy doesn't change any. Where you're going to put that strategy does now. So, the last thing I want to talk about real quick is publicity. The book touches on, about press releases where we're sending stories to the media saying, hey, again, we just made the greatest second quarter in the hotel's history. Can we get that printed in, into a small article? You can have human interest stories or interest stories about the hotel. These, a lot of times, newspapers and news outlets, I should say, I shouldn't just say newspapers, but news outlets tend to want to pick up more. When there's that interest, you can talk about a certain employee overcoming, some sort of disability, overcoming some sort of hardship. We want to highlight that. The hotel has a very, very unique group coming in, or we're doing something very unique with the group. Could be a campaign where we're going to raise money for Habitat for Humanity or something like that. So again, looking for that human interest story, if you will. So that's our chapter 8 real quick. Once again, we're going to get a quick drink here. Excuse me, guys. All right, into chapter 9, negotiations and contracts, the best part of sales. Okay, the book does a fantastic job of laying out a contract and what is included in this. And I'm not going to go through it piece for piece. You guys do need to read this chapter and fully grasp what it is they're talking about, okay? Just to kind of give you a quick overview, okay? First off, obviously, a contract is between two parties. It is typically between a hotel and, in my world, a company represented by a planner. Again, it could be an association, it could be a sports team, it could be a church, what have you, but it's two entities coming together for a win-win situation. Okay? And that's something very, very key. And I like to talk about relationship selling and long-term selling. It doesn't do me any good to go into a contract with a company knowing that I am, for a lack of terms, screwing them over. Okay? I'm beating them up on price. I'm making them pay absurd amount. I'm not bending anywhere. I'm not being a part of a relationship. Okay? And that's not going to last. There's got to be give and take. Now, I'm not saying we give everything, but we certainly don't take everything either. We have to look at it and say, okay, what's key component for this particular client? Where can I bend a little bit? Where can I make, offerings that they're going to like that still are good for me? Again, our job is to make money for the hotel, but there is wiggle room on how we can make everybody happy to come to this union, if you will. I mean, that sounds kind of severe, I guess, but it is. I mean, obviously it's a union between two parties to come up with a solution, or meeting, if you will, and then see it through so that both parties come out successful. So typically this process is going to start with an RFP that goes out. We talked a little bit about this. RFP is request for proposal. So that RFP comes to me. I put my proposal together. Out I send it. Hopefully it looks great. Client goes, wow, these are great prices. They're offering nice concessions. This meeting space is very unique. Cool. They call me up. We want to hammer out some of the details. We'll do some negotiating at this time. Price, food and beverage minimum. Hey, what ballroom do I have? I'd love to have windows and natural light if it's possible. And that's going to go on for a while. Once we've come to an agreement, that's when the contract comes into play. And again, the contract has all the information you could possibly imagine. It's going to have, obviously, the two entities that are coming into this contract. It has my contact information in the hotels, and in my world, corporation and their contact information. It's going to talk about overnight rooms. It's going to talk about the rate. It's going to talk about attrition, which is a huge clause. And again, we talked a little bit about this as well. Attrition is where you're allowed to fall off. So again, if company ABC comes to me for 100 overnight rooms, the way most hotel contracts work is you don't have to use all 100. We allow you, it's called fall off, okay? And that's attrition, okay? So in other words, you can drop 20% is the norm and still be fine in the contract. When you drop below 20%, so let's say instead of picking up the minimum of 80, you only pick up 60, now the attrition clause comes in and says there's a penalty for the 20 rooms you didn't pick up that you had to, okay? This is where contracts get dicey, okay? This is where, you can really see a lot of animosity build up between a client and a hotelier when we get in those situations. So you want to make sure they're explained ahead of time. If you're working with an inexperienced planner, if you're working for someone this is their first time, they're not used to this, these kind of clauses need to be explained. Attrition, cancellation clauses. If you cancel the meeting entirely, the way our contracts work is there's 4 different plateaus per se. If you cancel it a year plus out, if you cancel it inside of a year to a half year, 6 months to 3 months, 3 months to the actual date of the meeting. And every time you hit one of those plateaus, the penalty goes up. So again, it's going to cost the client more to cancel 30 days out because I have less time to resell those rooms and space, so it's a higher penalty than it would be to cancel a year out. Still a penalty involved because I had revenue I was counting on, but I have a year to replace that client, if you will. So again, those clauses are key. Okay, and those are things that you definitely want to explain to your clients. You're going to have everything else in there as well. When are rooming lists due? What's the cutoff date for the rooming block? Again, how many rooms are we holding? What types of room are we holding? Is there a rate change between doubles and kings, between upgrades and standards? We look at the meeting space. Some hotels will not put the names of the meeting rooms in there because they want to make sure they can shift around if need be. Now, in some cases, you have to. This client only fits in this room. I can't move him anywhere else, so let's go ahead and put the name in there. Our world, we do put all the names in there. And if, again, we have to move a client around, we'll call and have that conversation with them. So that's going to be in there as well. There may be clauses they ask you to put in, and that's okay. A lot of times clients will want certain clauses in there. The book will probably talk about force majeure, acts of gods, terrorism, those kind of things. And when you look at all of that, that starts to get into, okay, again, God forbid we have another 9/11, and flights are grounded again for 4 days. No one's traveling. At that point, can they cancel the contract without penalty? Well, yes, absolutely. That's an act of God, if you will. That's something that was beyond the control or beyond the foresight of either party, which in that case, everybody can walk away with no penalty. So again, take a good hard look at these. They are the nuts and bolts of when we get to contracts, kind of, this is what's going to solidify the deal. And again, guys, I can't say it enough. Questions, talking, making sure they understand things. The last thing you want is to think everybody's on the same page. We sign this contract and something happens, as you get close to the date and we weren't. It makes for a messy situation. It's uncomfortable for everybody. And again, it's going to put a strain on that relationship you have with that client. So, all right, so there's 7, 8, and 9. Again, guys, I apologize. Ball cap on, t-shirt on tonight. I'll be dressed much better the next time. But again, if you guys have any questions, please reach out to me. I'll have all the tests in by tonight. If there are questions from the test, if there are questions on grades, by all means, please feel free to reach out to me. I know some of you guys have been texting me. That is totally acceptable. Please continue to send it to me. I unfortunately live with my phone, and so that's probably the quickest way to get a hold of me for sure. So, guys, have a great week. I look forward to talking to you guys next Monday.